Morning, can I return the call, please? Thanks very much. Well, on a windy summer morning, I'm here in Brough. That's the station just outside Hull. And normally Brough's a very quiet kind of place. But at this time in the morning, it really is busy. There are trains running in and out from both directions, people coming to Brough to do their work, people going from Brough to London and into Hull to do their own work there. There is an awful lot going on. It's a very complex operation, yet it's all managed very smoothly. How do people manage such operations?
Joe's asked a question which, if it was possible to give a definite answer, would solve problems in many, many organisations. Operations management is essentially about the smooth running of any organisation, and operations managers view their tasks in terms of inputs and outputs. To illustrate this a little bit better, I think, we use what we term the production process model, which basically shows the whole production process in forms of an input, a transformation and an output. This is a simple but adequate model covering many organisations, and as we shall see when we start off by visiting a traditional engineering company.
Operations management is about managing the production process in a variety of organisations. Well, that's the shop front of KG Engineering. They make anything from tyre gauges to gear wheels. Let's go into the working end of it and see what's going on. Right, Dennis, thanks for talking to me about the company. How big have you got to so far?
Sorry?
How big have you got to so far? How many are you?
About 30 employees.
Any plans to go very much further?
No. No.
That's interesting. Why?
Small is beautiful. You can control a small workforce, you can keep better disciplines, and literally control your flow of materials, work input and output. And the big thing in our company is we sell quality. The bigger you get, the harder it is to control the quality. And if we make a promise on delivery, for instance, if we say we're going to get a job there on Monday, then by hook or by crook, we get it there on Monday because we think that's what's helped us expand as a company.
I can see that it's possibly in some ways easier to keep a control when it's small, but at the same time when we were going through the workshop, everybody seemed to be doing something completely different. I mean, how many product lines are you running?
We have 5 or 6 in-house products that we produce primarily for KG Supply of our own design. An airline gauge, a pressure gauge, various other items like that. Outside of that we do subcontract machining for anybody, and it can be literally any product. What we've found is that nobody wants to persevere with the awkward bits and pieces, the top class finishes, the oddball threads, and we've sort of, our corner of the market has been to do what other people don't want to do.
With that range of products, it must be a bit difficult to keep track of everything.
Very difficult, and literally every single job that goes through has got to be supervised. And because of the nature of the work, nothing is the same, as you said, on any machine or any 2 days.
Do you think that the getting of the orders is more important than...
Yeah, it's got to be, hasn't it? If you haven't got any orders, you haven't got any work, you know. But having said that, if you get the orders and you haven't got the skilled workforce, which is worse? It's fortunately, because we turn out quality and we get it there on time, a lot of it does come to us. Really, the hardest part of being a subcontract machine shop is continuity. If there's no throughput, you haven't got a business. Yeah. It's what makes or breaks you.
Dennis Jackson was talking about managing low-volume variety production. Reckitt and Coleman's household division mass produce a wide range of very well-known products. I talked to Bill Vickers about the important relationship between production and marketing departments.
We are a company who put things really into containers, tins, bottles, that sort of thing. What happens is that we get an idea, the marketing product group manager decides the marketplace requires this, and then that really comes down to us, produce this as cheap as you possibly can. Invariably, you can imagine they want the most aesthetic appealing product, which is frequently the one you can't run down production lines. We actually do get involved with talking to the marketing man and saying, well, this is lovely, we'd like to produce that for you, but if you only did this and half the price. It's a matter really of optimising between the two. So yes, we start with a requirement to satisfy a market and finish up hopefully producing it and it going out the gate.
You might not think of operations management in retail stores, but here at Boots, Roger Odd told me about two important tasks that concern him a lot.
As you're probably aware, we're selling items as far remote as televisions, cook shop merchandise, and even as we are here today, all this swimwear.
It must create an awful lot of problems in stock control.
A lot of problems in trying to get the right stock in the right place at the right time.
Would you care to tell me how we get the warehouse, how it fits into the whole scene in Boots?
Yes, the goods come up in the main lifts, and from there they're deposited in this area. Then the ladies in the stockroom check off the items. That means they compare the goods that we've received against the invoices to make sure we've had a correct delivery.
Yeah.
Everything is stacked on the shelves. Sometimes it's in alphabetical order, sometimes it's in the order that we count our stock sheets. Then the girls from the sales floor can come up and collect the goods.
So you just can't bring them down any time of the day. They have to be at certain times of the day to make sure that the customers have the right sort of goods when they come into the shop, when they want to do the shopping. Whatever the customer wants, then the shops must try and actually have themselves. If you've made a mistake, you're left with loads of stock which you can't sell and you have to reduce to try and clear.
It's a people business as well, isn't it?
There's a lot of people contact in the distributive industry. The customer talks to the member of staff, wanting advice, wanting help, wanting information, and it's really up to the member of staff to give that information to the customer. Some merchandise is still need that personal touch, that personal bit of service. Areas like televisions, computers, where people actually want to have some advice and help. Other lines, which are perhaps pick-up lines as I call them, the commodities areas, the toilet areas, those are the lines which people can serve themselves.
Okay, but a complicated business.
A very complex business. It may sound a very simple job when perhaps you as a customer come into a large shop and you think, oh, it's all here, it's all very straightforward, it's just happens. It doesn't just happen. There's a lot of organisation which goes on.
So good stock control and management of staff are key elements in keeping customers satisfied. But good operations management can also win new clients. That happened here at Good News Travels.
How big is the company?
We run about 10 coaches, so it's sometimes a little more in the season and a little less in the winter. I reckon anything less than 20-25 employees is a small firm.
Yeah. You've got a special contract with Tesco's, haven't you? Could you tell me about that?
Yes, we run their free bus service, in fact, which is 9 routes covering quite a large area of the city, and we do that 3 days a week.
Yeah. Does that fit easily in with your other operations?
It does actually, because it's Tuesday through Thursday, and sort of 9 o'clock till 4 o'clock, which is not terrible peak time.
What gave you the edge against other companies there?
We researched fairly thoroughly the sort of population centres around Hull, and run 9 routes altogether, so we cover a wide spread, and then set about timetabling that in as an efficient way as we can. In fact, one coach will cover 4 runs per day, so that in coach utilisation, rather than miles covered, we cover a good area. It did mean at the end of the day we could offer Tesco a good package in terms of price.
Transport companies always have problems in planning and manning capacity to a fluctuating demand. North Sea Ferry passengers and freight operations are another good example of this on a rather different scale.
Well, this is the walking passenger terminal, I gather. What's the difference between them and what other terminals are there that you have?
There are 2 terminals in Hull. One is the walking passenger terminal. This is for people who are arriving without vehicles, travelling independently, or those people who are travelling in groups. These people arrive by coach to the terminal here, disembark the coach, check in here, board the ship via a separate rampway. The coach then disappears round to the car terminal and boards via the freight ramp at the back.
Yeah.
And the other terminal is the car passenger terminal, which is based about a half a mile from here. Those people arriving by car, the family traveller, the business traveller, arrive at a separate terminal altogether, check in, and then wait in lanes to board the ship at around 5 o'clock.
Did it go smoothly, is that?
On the whole, it obviously depends on the actual physical number of people travelling, and obviously the mix of how people are travelling that particular night. We have a mixture of, if we have a lot of people travelling in groups, that means that this terminal is particularly busy. Some nights we can have maybe 800 or 900 people arriving here at this one terminal, and maybe only have about 50 or 100 cars at the other terminal. So predominantly this is the busiest terminal. There are 3 main markets that we aim for. We have the business traveller. He's a regular traveller all year long. Throughout the year we have a various amount of group traffic, and then we have the main market, which is the family traveller in the summer.
Are you concerned to set up any special treatment of them as people?
Well, obviously everyone is treated as best as we can do it. In the short time of space we have here, there are facilities in the terminal itself for people arriving early. They can have refreshments here once they've checked in at the terminal. Depends on how long they're spending here. We deal with a lot of people in a short space of time. The ship arrives at 8 o'clock and sails again at 6 o'clock. As far as passengers are concerned, they really only see North Sea ferries, as far as going out from this country is concerned, from around 3 o'clock onwards. Yeah. If we have a capacity on both ships one particular evening of say 1,500 people, you can imagine from 3 o'clock onwards you have 1,500 people arriving, and they have to be all checked into the computer and boarded the ship within about 2 hours.
Well, those are some of the problems involved in managing the passengers. How about the problems of managing the freight?
The hardest part of it, from our point of view, is getting the ships filled in the time that we have. We've been working on a daily basis, and having the ships, the size of the ships, we must ensure we have plenty of cargo available. Each day has to be planned on its own, because the car figures for the vessels differ. And so obviously the more passenger cars we carry, the less freight traffic we carry. Once we know the cargo, the amount of cargo we have available, I then go on board to see the chief officer, and we plan the stowage on the ship.
The timing must get a bit critical.
It does. As I say, we have to have all our freight operations finished by 6:15 on the night. That's the time that the dockers work to. And obviously we have to sail the ship at a reasonable time to arrive as per the schedule.
Well, I'm standing here in the marketplace at South Cave. It's a very traditional English setting, and fish and chips, a very traditional English food. But the quality of the business that goes on behind this is something that we want to take a look at now. Unexpectedly, this business utilises many of the aspects of operations management that we've already seen.
With me is Angela Howard, who did a special study of the whole business. Tell me about it.
Well, we were given a project to do by our lecturer at college in operations, and the project was to be on a fast food restaurant. I had great difficulty in selecting one, and I eventually selected the Clock Cafe in South Cave. When I came into it, I'm afraid I wasn't quite sure what to expect. Being a small family business, I didn't really expect a high degree of sophistication in management skills. I was subsequently very pleasantly surprised to discover there was a very high level of management skills involved in running this small family business. Basically, the business consists of two areas. It consists of the takeaway sector and the restaurant sector. Both of them are run independent to one another.
How independent are the two parts?
Apart from one small area where they do overlap, which is in the actual fish and chips themselves, which are served in the cafe, they are taken from the range. That is the only area in which they overlap. Other than that, they're completely separate and independent of one another.
Tell me about the kind of way they operate in basic things like, say, taking in potatoes and so on. What happens? What's the working day like here?
Well, the potatoes are delivered, I believe, once a week. They're delivered in bulk. They prepare them the night before because obviously the quantity involved, they couldn't do it in the morning. Then as they're required, they're taken through into the main production area, just behind the range, and are chipped.
End of the week it's fairly quiet and we can do our baking and fairly nicely, but by the weekend we're going sort of flat out. Staff, we get some extra in on lunchtimes when the cafe's at its busiest, of course. I'm fairly fussy on the fish I buy. I like basically to use one type all the time. I stipulate what brand I like. I prefer Norwegian ice, frozen at sea or fresh, whichever I can get.
Yeah.
Get some people in every time we open, nearly what the customers are going to ask for before they get to the counter.
What did you find the most interesting thing or the most striking feature of the whole business?
They do have family meetings. They have family meetings about once a week where they do discuss problems in the area, what they're going to produce for the next week. There is only one rule and the whole family sticks to it.
What's that?
They get the best quality that they can, they prepare it to the highest standard that they can, and they serve it in the best condition to the customer.
Well, with me is John Dixon, who's a lecturer in operations management at the Humberside College of Higher Education, and with him is Bryan Hayes, who's General Manager Operations UK for Reckitt's Household and Toiletries Division. John, just how complicated is it? How do you set about sorting all this out?
Well, I think operations management is a very complex task, and it's a problem that we have in the college explaining to students. And what we need to do is to find some sort of common ground between many organisations. And we usually do this by referring to them to what we call the production process, which is represented by an input and transformation output model. This is the way we tackle what we see as you say, a very, very complex process. And from that point, I think we can begin to break it down.
How adequately do you see that describing the world from your point of view at Reckitt's, Bryan?
It's a very simple way of explaining what is a complicated process. Operations management covers everything from distribution to engineering to technical development to purchasing and to planning, everything throughout the whole system, from procuring the goods to delivering to the customer's doorstep.
You must be able to subdivide it. John, what sort of subdivision is there?
We see two definite or distinct stages, one being the day-to-day running of the plant or factory or the shop. But the other, I think, a very extremely important role is the longer-term view of operations, to show how operations can be used in a way as a competitive weapon, how by getting your operations system right, this can win you orders. And I think it's one of the major tasks of operations managers to make the other functions, marketing and such like, aware of what they actually can do.
I would suspect, Bryan, that you're concerned more with the long term.
The longer term is absolutely paramount. Our customers are in fact the most important thing to us. The day-to-day responsibilities of people are obviously to get the goods out that we have orders in-house for. But on the longer term, we have got to plan an operations function that's capable of being fine-tuned to the strategic objectives of the business. All companies have to have a very clear view of where they want to be in terms of the profitability of the company and the sales that they need to have to bring that profitability about. Now, a company has got to decide what marketplace it's in. Is the clear thing that it needs to do first. We have to plan the whole operations function to support that very prime business objective. We have got to have one eye on looking to keep the factory running on the day-to-day basis to meet those orders we've got. But we have to make sure that factory can be made responsive to what the future holds in terms of the business's aspirations.
John, Bryan was talking there about maintaining the factory to be responsive to the changing needs. But actually it's the people inside the factory, isn't it, that you're talking about at that level, wouldn't you say?
Yes, I mean, so it's an area we haven't touched, which is obviously a very important area of operations management. I think you would agree, Bryan, is the people management side of the operations, because without having them on your side, the whole thing, the technology or anything else, will not function.
The two most important assets any business has are its people and its products, and without those two, no business will succeed. And we've set about developing people within the business to be businessmen. You can't just be an engineer anymore. You can't just be a chemist anymore. If you're actually managing parts of the operations area, you have got to have skills that people never had before.
It's part of the system of producing something. There's a marketing department which says that we're in a market. There's a design department that translates the market needs. There's a production department that produces them, and I think they've got to link together. This is the way, this is the way the company will become competitive.